Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Stand Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Hooker. You see Izzy, so you know we're going to talk about some basketball. So, Izzy, let's get into what happened during our last time talking of college basketball. What has happened from then until now?
Well, conference play in full swing now. So obviously, it's an exciting time. And as we've said, a couple of times now, and I'll say it again, conference play is really where we see the teams separate and stuff like that. Especially in the tough conferences like the Big Ten, Big 12, SEC, even the ACC is on the come up as well. But let's start in the Big Ten. There was a lot of interesting stuff that happened yesterday. Michigan lost, and we've been a very pro Michigan basketball podcast, I feel like, and they
For
lost to
sure.
Wisconsin. And honestly, I mean, it's like I said, the Big Ten right now to me is probably the toughest conference to play in. And we're
Mhm.
seeing it. We saw Nebraska come back down from 16 on the road yesterday against Indiana. We saw Michigan lose to Wisconsin, and then you still got teams like Purdue, who was in a dogfight with Penn State as well. So this conference, I feel like the depth has really, it's gotten better because in years past, the Big Ten, I feel like, was very top heavy. But now you see really the depth of the conference, and part of that is because of the expansion as well. But, I think yesterday just reinforced that, it's probably the best conference in college basketball right now.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking about Indiana coming back, like and speaking about Nebraska coming at, Indiana played a perfect game. Like
They did.
they shot over 50% from three. They made things hard for Nebraska throughout that whole game. Then Nebraska, if you want to be a part of championship contending combo, you have to find games like that to come out with the victory. And they came out with the victory. Now I think people went from, oh, it's Nebraska, they'll fall off soon, to now like, okay, like Nebraska looks real legit, and we're gonna see them come up, and we're gonna see them in the next couple weeks. They'll play a very very tough schedule moving forward. Like, because I have their schedule right here, where they're going to be playing a lot of good teams right now because they're number one in the Big Ten, but
Yeah, they got a road game against Michigan at the end of the month.
bunch.
Then they got Illinois right after that, and
And then
then
Purdue the
play
10th.
Rutgers, then Purdue.
Yeah, so it was gonna be interesting because even Penn State gave Purdue some tough troubles, and we all know Penn State's not the best of the best in the Big Ten, and so a game like Rutgers, they could slip up and lose. But if they want to continue to that trajectory they want to reach, they have to still be consistent. Don't waver into what the opponent is doing. You have to control what you can control. That's your energy and that's your effort. I think that they do a good job of that. It all speaks about the character of their coach, Fred Hoiberg, who is an alum who takes pride into what Nebraska basketball should look like. And I think that if he continues to be on this trajectory, we can say Nebraska can be a part of the Final Four conversation.
Yeah, I mean they have the talent, and we saw it yesterday. I mean Jamarcus Lawrence, 27 points yesterday, five threes, 8 of 13 shooting. Like he was very prolific for them offensively. And they run an eight-man rotation. You had Braden Frager off the bench. He had 11 points. And their starting lineup as well. Price Sanford 12 points. Like they had four guys yesterday in double figures, and all of them scored at least 11 points, which, speaks to the scoring depth that Nebraska has. It's not all about Lawrence. I know he was the headliner with 27, but they have other threats that they can rely on. And this is a prolific shooting team as well. They made 14 threes yesterday, 41% from three. That's probably one of their strengths, I would say. And that's what makes them dangerous, honestly. And that's how they came back against Indiana because, when you get down double digits, you have to be able to knock down the three ball. You can't just grind it out in the paint anymore. So
Mhm.
Nebraska really, shining from the perimeter, and that was what keyed their comeback really. I mean, 53 points in the second half. So
Yeah, for sure. Now onto this Michigan loss. Michigan lost to Wisconsin in their home stadium. They lost 91-88. Uh, yeah, so Lindenberg only had 14 points, which is under his season average. And then Namari Burnett only went 2 for 7 from 3 point land, and we all know he's the guy that knocks down big time shots on from that range. But for what you saw from Michigan yesterday, how can you see them responding moving forward?
I think this was kind of a little bit of a wake up call for them because Michigan to start the year kind of looked invincible in ways. They destroyed Gonzaga in non-conference, for
Hmm.
example. So they had kind of been cruising through 14 and 0 and everything. And then yesterday, they looked good in the first half, and then Wisconsin kind of made it a game a little bit, and then they were able to pull away in the end, scoring 54 points. Michigan scored 50, but I think defensively, they had trouble containing Boyd and Blackwell. I mean, they were
Yeah,
getting to their spots at
easily,
will, which I
easily.
didn't really expect because Michigan's defense was really, really good through these first 14 games. So I think Blackwell and Boyd kind of, provided a blueprint of sorts, for backcourts that go up against Michigan. And then Lindenberg was in foul trouble. I mean, he had 4 fouls, I get he had the 14.6 rebounds, but, felt like he wasn't really, in the game, it feels like. He was kind of out of rhythm a little bit. But, you have Morris Johnson stepping up with 18. Elliot Cadeau had 19 points and two big three-pointers as well. So that's encouraging. That their offense was still, able to fire on all cylinders and stuff like that. But defensively, they got to fix some things, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. Because at the end of the month, this is their schedule. Starting from January 20th, they have Indiana. Then they have a rivalry game against Ohio State. Then they have Nebraska, then Michigan State to end off the month of January.
Yeah,
So
Michigan
that
State in East Lansing. Yeah.
yeah, so those 4 games right there is going to tell a lot about this Michigan team because if you really look at it, Elliot Cadeau he's the guy that initiates the offense. And then we look at Michigan State, they have Jeremy Fears who initiates the offense. And both guys are very hard nosed. They have an edge about them to make sure they want to put their team in winning position. If they can do it by assisting, they can do it by scoring. One way about it, they want to win. I feel like that game right there is going to tell a lot about Michigan for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and it does. They don't have, as we've said, the Big Ten. There's not an easy game left on the schedule for Michigan.
Mhm.
Yeah, as you said, the rivalry game with Ohio State, that's going to be a tough one. You go on the road to Michigan State. You have UCLA at home. UCLA's got a talented squad. And you're on the road at Purdue as well. And then to end the season at Illinois, at Iowa, and then Michigan State to end the year. So it's a gauntlet of a schedule, and I know we've been talking Michigan up, and I still will. I still think that they're a national title contender and all that. I'm not going to
Yeah,
overreact to one loss and stuff like that, but
100%.
but they need to be able to show that, okay, we can bounce back. We can win games in multiple different ways. We can win, a 65 to 62 type game. We can win a 90 to 88 kind of game. Like they have to show that they can win in multiple ways because that's the mark of a true contender, in my opinion. And also be able to survive, when Lindeborg gets in foul trouble because that's probably going to happen again. How are they going to be able to operate? And I feel like offensively they did a good job of that, but defensively I feel like they need to fix some things.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on. I think that it's a trend going on with high major guys being injured. We've seen Darren Peterson; he's continuing to catching cramps. Michael Brown Jr. with a back injury, he's been out for an extended period of time, longer than expected. And people are wondering, are they trying to sit out for the NBA draft? Guys like Peterson, and with the injury history that he has so far this season, will that take him out of the conversation for the number 1 pick and drift him down to number 2? With AJ DeBonsa playing and Cameron Boozer playing at the level they are playing right now, and for Michael Brown Jr., we are both Michael Brown fans. You already claimed that he's arguably your favorite guard to watch in college basketball. So with a back injury like this, how does that hurt their status moving forward?
I'll start with Michael here. I mean, look, the guy wants to play, and Louisville's coach, Pat Kelsey, he was talking about that. Like he wants him to play. Like Michael Brown has done everything he can to get back onto the court, but Louisville, they know that they're gonna need him for the stretch run, right? This is a team with ACC title aspirations, with make aspirations to make a deep tournament run. So they know that they're gonna need Michael Brown, and they have the guard depth, to survive, a few games, without Michael Brown. So with Hadley, and all them, and Conwell and McKinley and all that. So, they want to, be, cautious with him. So I understand that. I don't think it's going to hurt his draft stock in a way, and I feel the same way about Darren Peterson as well. I think it's very, very clear. And as we sit here in January, when Darren Peterson plays, he's the best player in college basketball. I think we can all agree on that. Whenever he plays, it feels like he's getting 20, 25 without breaking a sweat. I mean, the
Mhm.
guy, can shoot from anywhere. He can get to his spots at will. He can get to the rim. He's athletic. He defends. He does all of these great things. And, I know the injuries do suck. I really, really do. Like, I get that. But questioning about whether the guy wants to play and stuff like that. These kids are 18, 19 years old. This is not like these NBA veterans that want to load manage and all that. These guys want to play basketball. Like that should not be a question like at all. If they can play, they will play. And it's about these programs, wanting to be cautious and, preserving their best young players because not only do they have the season in mind, but their kids' long-term future as well. Like they want to,
Yeah.
make sure that Darren can get to the NBA healthy with no issues. Michael can get to the NBA with no issues, stuff like that. But to answer your question, I don't think their draft stock's going to be affected at all. I think these are two of the five best players in the draft class this year, and I don't think that's going to change based off of, some minor soft tissue injuries.
Yeah, for sure. With the cramps, the Darren Pierce situation is similar to Paulo Banquero's. When Paulo Banquero first got into college, we see him cramping up. We see him. They said he lost like 5 pounds a game, 6 pounds a
Yeah.
game, and it was crazy. And like he was like, my full body was just cramping. Like I just had to come out the game and stuff like that. I feel like if Kansas can somehow replicate a formula for Darren Peterson for maybe a drink to keep up with his body for what his body is trying to do during the game. I feel like if that can be replicated, then we'll see results showing for Kansas, and those results will be wins for Kansas moving forward. I feel like that's one thing that they can look into for that because I know cramps are no joke because cramps your body's like telling you
Especially
to
in your legs. Like that's like it's the worst pain.
yeah, like it's your body saying, "Hey, bro, you gotta sit down, chill out for a couple minutes." And like it's tough for Darren because we seen on his face like we seen him. I seen it in the game against I think it was UCF when he just like was standing there. He was like, "I gotta come out, like I gotta come out, like I just can't." And then Bill Self's like, "I don't know what to do with it." And it's like that is a situation where as a coach we probably have never seen that situation for as many years as you have been coaching we don't know what to do with it instead of like stretching, adding more fluid, stuff like that. But with that, I don't know. But Darren Peterson, I think Darren Peterson still will be in contention for number one pick. I feel like if he does work out for a couple NBA teams that has potential to have the number one pick, then people like, yeah, regardless, if the team that doesn't draft him based off his injury history, that director of scouting will be fired and that GM will be fired 100%.
Yeah, you don't want to be the person to pass up on Darren Peterson. I'm gonna just tell you that right now. You do not want to be the general manager. If you have the number one pick, and I love AJ and I love Cam, those two they're otherworldly and they're gonna be great pros as well. But
Mhm.
if you do not want to be the general manager in this draft to pass on Darren Peterson, whether you're the Pacers, whether you're the Wizards, whether you're if the Hawks manage to get into the lottery, like if you, and I know we're going to probably talk about Atlanta later, but if you have the number one pick, you have to take Darren Peterson. I don't think that's a debate anymore. This is probably the best guard prospect we've seen in a while, honestly.
Mm.
Like this best two guard prospect at least.
Yeah.
Because I know Cade in 21 when he came out, we can have that debate. But Darren, in my opinion, probably the best shooting guard prospect we've seen in at least 10 years. Like the guy
Yeah.
is special. He's special. So you don't want to pass on him.
Yeah, for sure. Now moving forward with more upsets going on, we saw some in the SEC with Alabama losing to Texas. We saw Auburn whoop up on Arkansas. So
Which
moving,
I did not expect.
you didn't expect that.
I did not. Well, look, Auburn's got talent, but I did not expect them to just blow the doors off of Arkansas. This is a talented Arkansas team.
100%. I think
Yeah.
they have arguably the most underrated prospect in Darius Acuff, and I think that with what's going on right now, I feel like John Calipari, he hits one of his favorite rants. Talking about, I don't know what happened today. Like guys just didn't want to show up, and he went on his tangent. But I think that this was a good thing for Arkansas because we know Arkansas, they're arguably the most talented team in the SEC, and we arguably know that when it comes to March, Arkansas is going to play hard. Arkansas can get an upset win if they're a 7 or 8 seed, and they can make that run to the Sweet 16, maybe to even the Elite Eight. But I think that this is a good wake up call because I think that the freshmen now understand what it's like to get blown out and lose a game like this. And now, come Monday morning, you might not see any basketballs. Like we're just gonna put it
Yeah,
like that.
he's straight running,
We're just gonna see it.
running up and down.
We're just gonna
Hmm.
put it straight like that. But I think that with what's going on with Arkansas, I think this is just a gut check moment. You just gotta respond, and your response can be heard because moving forward, you got Georgia next Saturday. You have Vanderbilt the following Tuesday, and then moving forward with those two games right there, if you guys can go 1-1 or go 2-0, then people won't look at the Auburn loss like, oh, it's okay. But if you go 0-2 those two games, then people are going to start questioning whether this Arkansas team is for real.
I think the thing with young teams in conference play that we see, especially in Power Five or Power Four now,
Mm,
at the beginning it doesn't really hit you. You know what I mean? Like I don't think Arkansas is a young team. I don't think they were ready for okay SEC road environment. One of our beginning conference games, like they just didn't come with the right energy, the right force. Like I'd hate to sound like a coach, but when you watch the game, that's like exactly what happened. Auburn, a little bit of a veteran squad. Todd Pettiford. Was on the Final Four team last year. Keyshawn Hall is a senior. He's been in college basketball for a long time. So these guys were ready. Like Auburn was ready. I know their record 10-6, whatever. That obviously nothing close to last year's team, but this is a veteran team that knows what SEC basketball is like. This is a younger Arkansas team, and I know that they have a few guys like Wagner and Brazil that were there last year, Billy Richmond, Knox, all them like they were there last year, so they know what SEC intensity is like. But it just feels like they weren't ready.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
and one thing that that I just mentioned, Hall. I feel like no one's really talking about Keyshawn Hall. I really feel that way. He's averaging 22 a game. He's efficient. He gets to his spots. He had 32 and 11 to 14 shooting yesterday. Like I feel like he's one of the more underrated players in the SEC.
yeah, for sure. I think the only reason why people are not talking about him because his play has not led into wins for Auburn, but the blame is not on him. The blame is on the
Yeah,
other
it's
people
not.
surrounding him because each and every game I've seen Keyshawn Hall show up. I've seen Keyshawn Hall do everything he can to put Auburn in better positions to win. And I think that this is a tough first year for Bruce Pearl's son. And I think
Steve,
that
yeah.
putting Steve into a position to where, okay, I'm gonna retire middle of the off season. Like right before close to when the season starts and you're gonna take the reins. And I think that that's tough because people it was rumblings of saying, oh, Bruce Pearl's retiring, he's gonna try to get into, the government stuff. But I think now with Steve Pearl being put in this first season, being his first season as a head coach, brother, that is a gauntlet. You got
It's tough.
Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Florida on the rise, UGA, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama. Like it's gonna be a very tough year for him. I think that if he can make the tournament and get to round of 32, I think that's a success.
Yeah, I think so too. Given the circumstances, not able to, and I know that he was on the coaching staff and all that, but not being able to put your vision into, the team, until later in the offseason. I mean, it's tough. That's why Auburn's gotten off to a slow start, but I think they'll pick it up. Hall's been great. I know Pettiford's, been awful to start the year, but I think that will kind of average out a little bit. He's not shooting the ball
Mhm.
well, 38% from the field, 29 from three. So that will get better. That at least that's the hope, right? So
Right.
I think Auburn will kind of find their footing a little bit in the SEC. And I mean it's a tough conference. I mean there's not looking across college basketball, maybe outside of a couple teams in the ACC, like the Big Ten, Big 12, SEC. There's not really an off night for you. I really don't. I
Yeah.
really don't think that. And even to the ACC, even the ACC to a degree, but there's some teams that aren't that great. But conference play is tough.
No, because the SEC right now, uh, your Vanderbilt squad right now is number one in that
Yeah, my
conference.
Commodores, yes sir.
And then now Florida is back on the rise with being top five in the SEC now. Now we're gonna see Florida arguably after their wins over Georgia and and winning over Tennessee, I think that moving them up into the top 25 is not crazy to say at all. And I think that
I think they will.
whoever's
They're
the
probably going
bar,
to take Tennessee's spot. Yeah.
yeah, but
Hmm.
regardless, whoever's the barber in Florida, whoever cut Walter Clayton's hair and whoever cut Boogie Flan's hair, they deserve a season ticket holder for life. Because after that, they start playing basketball and they start hooping like we're going to see them a part of SEC Player of the Year conversations now. And I think that
That
Boogie
taper,
Flan,
man.
but
Hmm.
I think Boogie Flan's the X factor for this team. I think their bigs are going to be who they are. Hog is going
Yeah.
to be who they are, and I think that what Todd Golden wants to have in Florida, I think the guard position is the most important position for that group because your guards have to score to take pressure off the bigs. And I think that the bigs feed off of what the guards are playing like and how are they doing moving forward. And I think that overextending themselves will burn them out if they get when they get to March. But now with Boogie Flan scoring 23 and 5 yesterday, I think that we'll see Boogie Flan start moving and grooving a little more. Xavier Lee, everyone's talking bad about him, but he played a very decent game against Tennessee. I think that
He's been their point guard basically. You
yeah,
know, Boogie's just been focused on scoring off ball all that, but Xavier's been their floor general this year. And I know the shooting splits don't look great, but he's running the offense. So
yeah,
like, and that's really all you can ask for at the end of the day.
yeah, for sure. And I think that moving forward, they play Vanderbilt next Saturday,
Gonna be a big game. It's gonna be a big, big game.
and it,
My
and it,
my
and it's
my
at
Commodores,
Vanderbilt.
man, and it's gonna be at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, so it's gonna be tough. So I think that Florida's gonna be on the rise. But Alabama losing to Texas was not on my radar.
It was not, and it was a close loss, 92 to 88. But I mean, this Texas team, again, you got talent. You got Jordan Pope. You got Tremont Mack. Like, this is Simeon Wilcher off the bench. Like, this is a solid, solid Texas squad. But, Alabama, and it's been the case even when they've been at their best the last couple of years, they can't stop a nosebleed at the end of the day. And that hasn't changed. They can't defend. Gave up 92 yesterday. When you score over 80 in a college basketball game, you should be winning that game 95% of the time. But,
100%.
if you give up over 82, your chances of winning are automatically lower. And, this
Yeah.
Alabama team, they still can't defend. And that's going to be their Achilles heel. We're going to talk about it next month. We're going to talk about it going into March. Like, this is just who they are at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Now, arguably your favorite conference, the Big 12 conference. Right now they have four teams inside of the top 10. Arizona's undefeated. Iowa State is undefeated. BYU is undefeated. Houston is undefeated. So,
Tough conference, man. It's tough.
so with that being said, who do you think will be the first team to take a L in that conference
Mm.
for us inside of the top
That's a
four?
good
Okay,
question. So you said Arizona, Iowa State, BYU, and what was the other 14? Texas Tech?
Houston.
Houston, my bad. Uh, first team to take a L. I gotta look at their schedules. Let me pull that real quick. Arizona schedule. Let's see. Oh wow. Okay, Arizona State, UCF, Cincinnati, West Virginia. Okay, they might not lose for a little bit.
BYU
Uh,
plays Texas Tech next Saturday.
mm, oh yeah, BYU schedule. We talked about it last time. Their schedule is tough. They have a tough schedule. Uh, at Texas Tech, I think it's gonna be BYU.
Then it's gonna
I
be
think BYU.
BYU.
I think it's gonna be BYU. I think BYU is gonna be the first team to take L. It's because they're going on the road to Texas Tech, and you know how I feel about Christian Anderson, and you know how I feel about JT Toppin. So Grant McCaslin's a hell of a coach. I think the Red Raiders can get it done. But I love the way BYU's playing right now. That's gonna be a great game.
Yeah, and I think that I'm not gonna lie, the Big 12 Player of the Year, that discussion will be had all the way up until after the conference tournament because it's
I mean,
each
if you
team each
just
team got a dog.
pick your character. You pick your character. I have no problem. You can tell me you want AJ. Go ahead. I'm not even gonna be mad. You can tell me you want JT Toppin or Christian Anderson. Go ahead. Yeah, I'll let you have the Arcola Pete. Like I can't even debate you on that. Like it's literally pick whoever you want for Big 12 Player of the Year right now. Like I mean I won't have a problem with either of those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I think how you feel about Michael Brown Jr. is how I feel about Kingston Flemings.
I
I
love
think
Kingston Flemings too. Yeah.
I think Kingston Flemings, like the way he plays when Uzon, who was it? It was against Cincinnati. Uzon had it going for a little bit, then he got into some foul trouble. Then I seen Kingston Fleming just take the game over, and it wasn't just offensively; it was defensively too. The man had over 4 steals that game, and I think that him being a pest on defense, buying into the Houston culture, will make him more of an attractive NBA prospect because we all know some guys come in the league, hey, you just being told to score. But Kingston Flemings, we can look at him as a Steph Castle um replica saying, hey, I'll guard the best teams player and I'll go and initiate the offense. I think that what I've seen from Kingston Flemings is something that has to have a process for other young players, but I think he has the maturity that he doesn't have to have that process. He's just going to say, "Hey, if I'm not getting done on one, I got to bring the energy on the other end." I think that that what makes him so special in my eyes. And plus, like whenever Houston is going, you see Kingston Flemings be the head of a snake most of the time when that happens.
I mean, honestly, I love Kingston Flemings. I'm with you. I like the way he gets to his spots. Like I just like his handle. I like his ability to finish at the rim too. He's a great guard prospect. I mean, honestly, in the way he's playing right now, he could play himself into that lottery conversation in a stacked class. And I think he's going to continue to grow in Houston's system. And the one thing in college basketball that you need, like when it comes to March, you need multiple ball handlers, and Houston has that. They have Sharp, they have Uzan, and they have Flemings. And Flemings has met the moment every single time so far this year. And obviously, they have way bigger games coming up. This Houston team, they're going to be in the national title conversation. So we'll see how he responds. But I think he's going to be up to the challenge. And this is a well-rounded squad, and they're going to be in the mix to win the Big 12, even though this is probably going to be the toughest Big 12 that they've seen this year. So we'll see, who ends up on top. But Flemings, he's done a great job so far, and he's part of this great, freshman, renaissance in college basketball.
Yeah, for sure. Moving forward to the last conference, the ACC. Uh, you go to school to Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
There, Syracuse has won. Syracuse blew out Pitt. They look very good.
Donnie
Uh,
Freeman.
and I think Miami's a team that we didn't see coming. Trey Donaldson, who looks like arguably the most underrated player in college basketball. He's had 5 games where he's scored 10 and 10, 10 points, 10 assists, and I think that him being a double double machine, and we seen their head coach Jay Lucas trust Donaldson in closing moments, like, hey, whatever you feel like is good, go ahead. And I think that having that trust with the veteran guard, because we saw him play at Auburn, but then transfer because he knew, like, I'm not gonna get the starting position. I'm not gonna get what I want out of Auburn. Auburn has been good to me, but I need to go find somewhere else to show my talent. I think that Miami was the spot for him. Him and Shelton Anderson is a underrated duo that not many people are talking about. I think that this Miami team, it might not make the tournament as the season prolongs, but they will be a team to be reckoned with to say, hey, we got to come and play tonight because Miami, one thing about it, they're going to play hard. They're going to hustle for loose balls. Those 50-50 plays, they're going to be the first ones on the floor. And I think that Miami is building a great culture with their head coach, Jay Lucas.
I think, yeah, I agree with that as well. And the one thing about Donaldson this year, he's just seen the floor a lot better. At Michigan last year, one thing, yeah, and we talked about it, they were a high turnover team, and Donaldson was their point guard. He only averaged 2 turnovers a game, but you know, and they ran the offense through Danny Wolf and Golden a lot, so he didn't really get to show his full skill set. But now he's with the Miami team, and Lucas was like, "Here, have the ball. Like I want you to get us into our actions. I want you to go score. I want you to play make. I want you to do all that." And now you're seeing the best version of Trey Donaldson. He was averaging 17 a game, 7 assists. He's efficient, 47% from the field. And from 3-point range, he can knock a couple down if you need him to. So he's done his job. This Miami team, they were one of the worst teams in the country last year. Let's just call it what it is. They were a bad basketball team, and they have turned it around. They have great talent now. Henderson's been great. Donaldson obviously has been great. Uh, and they have a great offense. They're going to play hard, like you said. So, I expect them to they're not going to be an easy out in the ACC. So you got to come
Yeah,
to play against these guys. It's not like last year we can go to Miami, have some fun before the game, and then go and then go and go suit up and expect to win by 20. So
yeah,
Miami basketball is kind of back. I don't want to say that fully, but we'll see. I mean, football they definitely are, but
yeah,
basketball we'll see.
yeah. I remember us talking about a Duke guard has to show up to help out Cameron Boozer, and that Duke guard to
Yep.
me has been Isaiah Evans. The past 3 games, Florida State he had 28, Louisville he had 23, and this past game against SMU, who's a very good team, he dropped 21. And I think that what's been happening is that Isaiah Evans has been playing within the system. He hasn't been overextending himself to be like, oh, I got to chuck up shots to help out Cameron. But what they're doing is running more action for him, and he's taking what the defense is giving him. I think that the confidence that he's growing I think will lead over into March where there's going to be a game where Cam don't have it. Isaiah give us something, and I think that he's responding very well right now in that moment, preparing him for March because last season he wasn't that guy. He was a guy that just come in, hey, we need to knock down 2 threes and you're good. And he came and did that. He only had one game with over 20 points last season. Now he has 3 in a row, and he looks to continue to do that. He looks to continue to do that against their opponent in Cal. So, for what you've seen from this Duke team, who are the other players that need to step up to help out Evans and Boozer moving forward?
Um, well, you kind of hit the nail on the head with Evans. He's been great. If he scores 20 points, Duke's gonna win the game. That I feel like that's just the mentality that he has to have. If I can score 20, we're going to win the game 9 times out of 10 because they're going to double Cam all the time. Cam's going to get doubled for the rest of the season, probably for the rest of his basketball career, honestly. So Isaiah is going to have his one-on-one opportunities, or whether it's off the dribble, off the catch and shoot, when weak side comes and he's going to be wide open for a catch and shoot three. He's going to have to hit those opportunities, and he has. But I think a couple guys need to step up, outside of them. Caleb Foster. He was not great yesterday. Only played 15 minutes. He's kind of been up and down. Feels like for his whole Duke career. He has a couple good games and he has a couple bad games. He had 20 against Louisville and then completely disappeared against SMU. He was coming off a good stretch of games as well against Georgia Tech, FSU. Louisville. He looked really good. So I think he'll bounce back. He's a veteran. He's been around, so I think he's going to be relied upon throughout the year. Caden Boozer looks a little more comfortable as well. He played 34 minutes yesterday, 12 points. He looked comfortable running the offense. So I think looking at him as well, Dame Sarr as well. So those three, I feel like for Duke to win a national championship, to win an ACC title. You can't just be Boozer and Evans. One of those three guys, in my opinion, has to step up on a nightly basis. And it may be a different guy every night, which is just a showcase to their depth. But one of them needs to have a good game, in order for Duke to win another national title, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I think that Duke is a team to where they beaten some very, very quality teams. They beat the SMUs. They have beaten so far the oh my god, I'm blanking. Oh, Kansas. They beat Kansas. They beat Arkansas, and now we're gonna see them move along in conference play. And I think that the game that's gonna stick out to everyone, even myself, is gonna be them versus North Carolina. Because North
Yeah, you
Carolina,
got them. You got them twice. Yep.
yeah, I think North Carolina, they have the most underrated duo in my opinion, with Caleb Wilson and Vassar. I think both are very good NBA prospects. We all know Caleb Wilson be a top 15, top 10 prospect, but
They're just
Vassar,
physical. Like they're
like,
just the physical duo. That's just what it is. Like they're gonna be on the glass for 40 minutes. And they match up well with Duke, if we're being honest.
no,
They
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 do.
match up they match up very well with Duke. And obviously everybody's going to point to Caleb versus, Cam, and, rightfully so. I mean, these guys are going to be, in top five conversations, come the NBA draft, and Cam probably number one. I don't think Caleb will get there, but he's going to be a top five pick for sure. So, that's going to be the matchup that people highlight. But like you said, Vassar's kind of their X factor in that game, because I think he can neutralize a lot of things at the rim for them. And him and Wilson play off each other very, very well. So, this is a good North Carolina team.
Yeah, for sure. And then Duke's schedule they also have Michigan.
Yes, they do. And
They
that's a big one.
they
And I'm
have
really excited for that game.
yeah.
I'm really, really excited. That could be a Final Four preview, a national title preview, whatever you want to call it. I think that game's going to be set up to be one of those.
Yeah, and then also another underrated team, Clemson. Clemson 4-0 in conference. They're 14-3 in the
Yeah,
season
beat
so
my
far.
Orange in our conference
Yeah,
opener.
yeah, they did. I remember watching that game. I remember watching that game. I said, "You guys had a chance to win, but I think the veteran-led team, the team that's been together for a little while, stuck it out and they came out and got the win."
Yeah, I mean the ACC. I feel like last year was kind of a down year, but I think we're seeing, the ACC come back a little bit in college basketball. Obviously,
Yeah,
Duke, Carolina are at the top. SMU's a pretty good team. They gave Duke a dogfight at Cameron Indoor.
with no
Miami's a
Bowie
lot
Wood.
better. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Miami's a lot better. Obviously, Louisville, Virginia is always in the mix. Syracuse looks pretty solid. Like there's a lot of good teams in this conference. Compared to last year, it felt like it was pretty top heavy, and everybody knew Duke was gonna run through everybody, which is exactly what they did with Flack, Nipple, and all those guys. But I
Yeah,
think
for
this year is gonna be a lot better for the ACC.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that wraps up this college basketball episode. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.